Have you ever finished a book, closed it, and realized you barely remember what you just read? And I don't mean you forgot a few details. I mean you genuinely felt like the book just slipped through your hands. Well, if that's you, this video is for you because the problem usually isn't intelligence, motivation, or even focus. It's how you're interacting with the book. So in this video, I'm sharing 3 science-backed strategies that completely changed my reading comprehension. Not by reading more, but by reading differently. The third one, well, it's the reason I still remember ideas from books I read years ago. But to understand why these work, I need to start with a mistake I was making when I first got back into reading as an adult. When I first started reading again after high school, it felt good just to be reading. I actually picked up the book Crush It by Gary Vee, but something weird started happening. I was moving through the book slowly, which I was okay with, but as the weeks went on, I realized I was forgetting things from the early chapters. So I did what most people do. I went back, I reread, or I skimmed, and I even started taking notes. And at first, that felt productive. But here's the problem. I was basically copying the book word for word, page after page. And weeks later, the same thing happened again. I look down at pages of notes, all in my handwriting, and think, why doesn't any of this feel familiar? It's because I wasn't learning, I was just transcribing the information. So I changed one thing. Instead of writing what the book said, I forced myself to summarize what I understood in my own words. In cognitive psychology, this is called elaborative encoding. When you translate information into your own language, you're not just storing it, you're building meaning. Studies show rereading and highlighting barely work, but summarizing dramatically improves retention. Here's how I do this without turning it into work. I finish a section or chapter, I close the book, and I ask one question. How would I explain this to a friend in 30 seconds or less? That's it. No perfect notes and no fancy system. And the crazy part is it takes way less time than copying quotes or information from the book, and it sticks. After I started summarizing, I started to notice improvements. But the next thing I discovered came from a book that makes learning even stickier. When I read Make It Stick, it completely reframed how I thought about learning. It made me think back to school and even my time in the military. And I realized something. Whenever we actually learned something, it wasn't just lectures. There was always practical application, followed by written examination, and performance evaluations. Even back in school before exams, we used flashcards. So I tried making flashcards again, by hand. And honestly, it worked, but it took forever. And I'd spend more time making flashcards than actually learning. So I needed a better system. Learning happens when you try to remember, not when you review or reread. So I started using active recall. Instead of rereading, I tested myself. And instead of guessing when to review, I used spaced repetition. This is one of the most supported findings in learning science. Retrieval practice, which is actually pulling information from memory, leads to significantly better retention than rereading. And spaced repetition builds on this by timing reviews right before you forget. That's why tools like Anki work so well. They automate what your brain naturally needs. Here's how I keep this simple. After reading, I create really basic questions. 1 idea per card. No fancy wording, and yes, you can use AI to help you if you need to. But the learning doesn't come from the tool. It comes from the struggle to remember. Now, even with summarizing and active recall, there was still one missing piece. And this was the difference between remembering ideas and actually owning them. For a long time, my reading pattern looked like this. I'd finish a book, I'd feel good, and then move on to the next one. And at the end of the year, I'd look back and wonder, why do I feel like I read a lot, but not much had changed? That all changed when I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. This book's different because it demands action. So I tried something different. I started applying what I read. I was smiling more, using people's names, actually listening, and I remember specifically trying it at work. Not to be manipulative, but just to test the ideas in real life. I tried just smiling at people when passing by, and I would get a smile back. And the whole energy changed. And in that moment, I realized something powerful. The book wasn't just knowledge anymore, it was experience. Applying what you learn turns abstract ideas into lived experience. So the principle is simple. Apply one idea immediately. When you apply knowledge, you're engaging what psychologists call contextual learning. You're linking information to emotion, feedback, and real outcomes. And that makes it far more durable than knowledge that only exists in your head. You don't need to overhaul your life. Just ask one question after reading. What's one small thing I can try in the next 24 to 48 hours? That's it. And yes, this works even better when combined with active recall and spaced repetition. But on its own, it's incredibly powerful too. Better reading isn't about speed, hacks, or reading more books. It's about how deeply you engage with ideas. But none of this matters if you don't build a consistent reading habit in the first place. So watch this video next to build a reading habit that fits your lifestyle. Keep learning, keep growing, keep going, and I'll see you in the next one.